Hey all, it's singer-songwriter Yuzima Philip. I'm back, and I already actually did a video on this, but I uploaded and I pulled it down because I wanted it to be focused, and then I put another video up, the one about Dixie Mirage hitting 1 million views. So I was like, you know what? Let me do this video over because I really think I understand what I want to do other than my music persona. This is a part of my persona, the fact that I pay attention to socially what's happening. And I'm kind of like a guide. I know a lot. I am an expert on fascism. I'm an expert on just a lot of things that I can bring and explain to folks on the internet where they're going to get something from my knowledge. A lot of this stuff goes into my music that they're not going to get from these influencers who kind of chase the daily, thing that's happening, like the daily, shiny object. And they're out there. Here, I do contemplation, I do observation, I do information, and I do confrontation. Okay? And obviously, I'm a poet because I can rhyme. So, this is about the spectacle. And this really does explain everything you need to know about our world that we live in, the internet. The world of the internet, the world of images and fascism that we are currently fighting right now in the Trump administration and his effect over the planetary direction. I mean, you have countries in South America who are taking his lead. So it's up to us as Americans to nullify that, okay? To change that. We all have to vote. We all have to speak out. But this thing about the spectacle kind of goes into what led up to Trumpism. And I have the book here. I'll give you some background. My husband, he sees things and he sends them to me. He's like, I think he just sees things. Oh, that's deep. I'll send it to Yuzima. Because, how do I say this? I know my position in the universe as an artist. I am like a savant as an artist, a singer, but I'm also someone who is kind of really deeply in tuned into the time I'm in. So you could call it the zeitgeist, the spirit of the era. I'm someone who just is, and that comes through my music, my albums. Let's go through the names. Glassnotes. I did that like in 2010. Oh no, 2011, 2012. Powerful. Behemoth. I've been okay. Behemoth, The Machine, which was my second album. Bash, Insta album, Living Off the Land, and then I moved into this era of Yuzima Philip, which is the Book of Slade, uh, Street Corner Creep, which is about fascism, but I gave it a little bit like David Bowie's, what is his, Ziggy Stardust? Well, he had Ziggy Stardust, I have Street Corner Creep. So make sure, if you haven't heard it, go check that out because that is a listen from beginning to end. And to be honest, all of my albums are listens from beginning to end. That's how I operate. But we're gonna talk about the spectacle. Now, this is the book I suggest everybody go and read. Actually, after I read it, I'm like, okay, husband, you go read this because it has. There are certain books that revolutionize the way that you think, but they also explain the era that you live in. And they were written 80 years before the era that you live in. This was written in 1969 or something. It's Society of the Spectacle, and the guy's name. Now he's French, so I'm gonna pronounce it in the best French, the faux French way I can. Good, de bois, de beau. But if as an American, you probably would say Guy Debord. Now, let me tell you something. This book has blown. Blow your mind is a cliche. It has had such an impact on, because I started reading and thinking that I was going to learn something more about the time we're living in now, because we are experiencing a spectacle a day, sometimes a spectacle an hour, by one person. And by that one person, I'm talking about the president of the United States, who decides when he wants to be president, and decides when he wants to sleep and do other things, and when he wants to stuff his pockets, which is all the time. But we have a whole city, Gary, Indiana, that has no power right now, while that guy is building gold statues. So these are spectacles, but I learned as I was reading this book, when he talks about a spectacle is a different kind of spectacle, but it comes around to be the same spectacle. So let me explain what the spectacle is, and I can explain it by naming the chapters, because we all know what it is once somebody tells you. The name of the first chapter is Separation Perfected. So what the spectacle is a time when the subject and the image of the subject become separated. I just explained the whole world. I can turn this video off right now. I just explained everything we're going through. And I'm going to do more videos on this, because when you understand this, you're going to see exactly what we're living through right now and how it's been developing now in our world. The further we go through history and what he calls historical history and spectacle history, spectacular history, the further we go through history, the quicker this accelerates. So when they say separation perfected, it's the image and the subject becoming separate. And what that means is, now he's a Marxist, and so Marx was a communist philosopher, and actually a couple of books I read before this was the Communist Manifesto by Marx. So now I need to go back and read some other books that he references in this book. But in the Communist Manifesto, and one of Marx's biggest things was the commoditization of the world. That is connected to the separating the image from the object. And I think I spoke about this in the other video, when you deal with anything in our world, we aren't actually dealing with the thing. We deal with the images of the thing, and one big image full of all of those images. So it's like another reality that we engage with on a daily basis that affects our lives, that we don't really clock, but we know it's there. That's the spectacle. So what I mean by this is, let's say you talk about, the Communist Manifesto. No, scratch that. Talk about Martin Luther King. There's Martin Luther King, the person, then there's Martin Luther King, the image. As people, you can have a conversation right now with somebody about Martin Luther King. Who do you think they're going to know? Are they going to know Martin Luther King, the person, his actual beliefs, his anti-capitalist sentiments, his more like militant activity, his complexities, that he even cheated on his wife? Is the average, or are they going to know the spectacular image of Martin Luther King? So that's not just Martin Luther King, that's everything in our society. We become acquainted and we learn how to judge things in a spectacular way. And I don't mean spectacular as in big and great, I mean spectacular as through the spectacle. So when you watch TV, when you ingest information, you're taking this in based upon this spectacular reality that comes along with the regular reality, that has more of an effect on people than the real reality. Now, you fast forward that over to the modern times, that is when we're in regular capitalism. When you move into, because there's two spectacles. There's diffuse spectacle and there is concentrated spectacle. Diffuse spectacle is capitalism. Diffuse spectacle is where everything is commoditized. So Apple, a pen that says vote, all these things have images that are separate from them, that have been separated from them. And those images fight for supremacy with each other. And we all fight for, like, we're sort of programmed by this spectacle. Then you have concentrated spectacle, which is totalitarianism, fascism, authoritarian states, where all of that, the one commodity that matters is their leader. So how far are we in between these two spectacles at this current moment? You can have a society that is partially, right now, according to whatever, we're in the, not necessarily the middle, but we're in the middle of full totalitarian and the regular capitalist spectacles. We're in between everything being about Donald Trump every day, right? That spectacle. Then we're existing with reality television shows. We're existing with reality stars. We're existing with people who I'm explaining it, they simultaneously know that reality television is fake, yet they treat the actors and participants like they are real. That is a separation of the reality from how you think about the reality. And so many people think like that it creates this whole world of a spectacle. So now we can move this right on to social media. One thing about the spectacle is that, and commodities, is that it's about separation and it's about breaking things down. The more you want to exploit something, the more you separate it. Separate. That's what fascists do. They separate their enemies using propaganda. So separate everything into niche genres. And this is a real problem we have in the modern world. And this is the jewel out of my understanding from this. We are living in a fake world where we don't realize that we are empowering our oppression. And I'm not talking about like oppression like Trump and ICE. That's, like I said, that's the concentrated spectacle level. That's the real stuff. But this cultural kind of infiltration of the spectacle, we are essentially, everything becomes separated and weaker. And so therefore, the further we go along, the more things have to be broken down. And we call that, in our modern time age, niches. So people almost won't interact with something if it's the bigger, more truthful thing. They'll interact with it once it's broken down into like into gimmicky, novel, sort of almost like touch points that it's not even like, there are things that people are discussing and it harms us, because if we have a discussion right now about totalitarianism, many of the people who are on the internet talking about it are talking about it like it's some, okay, let's talk about the incels, or let's talk about, you never heard me speak about these people. Let's talk about the incels. Let's talk about the what are they, the trad wives. Let's talk about so it almost becomes like a boutique experience of experiencing this thing that's horrifying and you're getting away. That's why you can watch a video. The whole YouTube is based on this kind of thinking, and people don't realize they are propelling it. They are, pushing. They are essentially weakening their own culture by sort of demanding that influencers are doing it, homogenize these subjects and narrow them down and sort of do all their videos in the same manner, talk with the same voices, but the subject is just a little bit different. But you made you know there's so much of it, but you made it just a little bit more exotic. It's almost like subject tourism that happens. This is the spectacle in action, because the book was written in the 60s, but you can look at, he was talking about, it's not just limited to pop culture, but he was talking about pop culture. It's almost how we think of pop culture, how we think of commercialism, but it's bigger than commercialism or pop culture. That a celebrity is one of these parts of the spectacle where the image is different than the actual person, and they have to dumb down the image. What does Beyonce have to do in order for her to exist in a way that people who have been cultivated into the spectacle demand? She has to dumb herself down. Politicians have to do it. They don't have real opinions about anything. They all go into this one homogenized thing, the spectacle. So I know I gave y'all a lot in 17 minutes, but I really, really, really want to emphasize how on YouTube you can see it everywhere, where instead of people gravitating towards authentic things, they're going to authentic things and telling the people to homogenize themselves. I was watching NPR. NPR did a video on, I think it was, who was it? Not Master P. Jay-Z. He did a video. Oh, we could do a whole thing on Jay-Z because he is the master speculator. He took a whole culture of hip hop and turned it into what? A commodity. So, and still sells it piece by piece, just chops it up into little pieces and resells it. Because that's one thing that capitalism does, that the spectacle does. It takes what you have, your talent, carves it up, and does what? Weakens it, sells it back to you. Or it takes from someone else. So what are these companies doing? When there's a fashion moment, they go out to the streets, and what do? They see who the person is, who knows who's the forefront of that, and they what? Co-opt them, possibly rip them off, co-opt them, maybe pay them more for their expertise and toss them to the side, or they have to become a part of the system and do the same things that the people in the system are doing to the people. They find somebody else to rip off. This is the exploitation that Marx was a genius in explaining in capitalism, and he explained it 100 years before the time we live in. It's that balance between exploitation and the appearances. It's the having and the appearing. It's being, having, appearing. We started out being, then it became in capitalism about what do you have. Spectacular culture, it's about how something appears. So the way it appears is more important than what it actually is. So I just named a couple of things, from Jay-Z to this NPR special that was on Jay-Z, and they were talking about, how they were kind of softballing it, and I don't like that. I don't like softballing. I'm gonna give it to you straight. Oh, we like Jay, we like Jay, we like Jay. I liked Jay until I got when he did that, I was like, oh wow. But it wasn't just that. It was something else he did. The Target. He's done other things, like when they sat with Jared and Ivanka. Excuse me. But we, I'm not gonna say we gave it a pass, but kind of like, okay, now no one's perfect now. But then when he did that, when he did the deal with Target, well, I haven't been to Target since they got rid of their DEI because of Trump. I sacrifice. I walk around the Target. I give the people the evil eye going into Target because I go sometimes to Trader Joe's, which is in Harlem. They're both in the same building. I see all the sellouts and Uncle Tom's riding right up the escalator while I'm going down the escalator, and I'm giving for the ancestors, and I have a mean evil eye, y'all. So they ridiculed Jay-Z and they're a little lighthearted about it. But the people in the comments were like, well, you know, you guys, there were like two comments where they were like, you guys are rambling. This would be better if it were organized. They were doing, those commenters were doing the systems, the spectacles work, telling the NPR people they have to what? Commoditize. They have to make, they have to carve out the stuff that is non-sellable, make this digestible because we as as an audience have been trained into thinking that everything needs to be presented as what? A product. Musicians deal with it, or I deal with it. I have my song Ditsy Mirage. It's over 1 million. It's at 1,020,000. It's over 100 million. We're on our way to 2 million views right now with that. And most of the responses are great, but I've gotten like a healthy amount of people who have ridiculed the song. You know, they don't, you know, part of the song is microtonal, and I do that on. First of all, I'm an artist, I'm a singer, and that's in me. You can listen to Ancestors. There's microtone. You can listen to almost all of my music. If I want to sing 100% in key, I promise you, I could. But we are making, and I do, when I need to. But we're making art here. So if I sing it because I feel it. I'm not making product as product. I'm making art, true art. But what those people are trying to do is they don't realize it. They're trying to force me into a commodity. They're trying to carve off the actual value. Other things that take away value, auto-tune. Auto-tune has been chopping up y'all vocals for over a decade now, bringing the quality down. That's why we don't have any classics other than what I'm making in the modern era, because y'all are screwing it up. How do you know who you're listening to? Now, mind you, I use Ditsy Mirage has auto-tune, but it's on little parts to add to my artistic vision. It's not, there is no auto-tune on the main vocal. No auto-tune on the main vocal. Because I am deliberate. I'm, and this goes to the AI discussion too, because I'm gonna do a whole nother video on that. I know what I've been put here to do. I've been put here to make music. And the universe tells me, I get it in dreams, I get it in visions. The universe tells me, Yuzima, make this song, this experience, this dream I can't understand, make it. And when I get, and I start recording, I have my vision, but sometimes I sing it, and it may not even be fully to the vision, but then I'll listen to it. I'm like, you know what? Those pitches in that place, those pitches are kind of odd, but I like it. 99% of all the other musicians are going to hear that, and they're going to sit there and either re-sing those parts or put auto-tune on those parts. And that's not just that, that's with any part of the recording. When I talk about the spectacle, it's not just the vocal singing, which is the most important part. It's also how we hear drums. Literally, engineers, I mix my music and I have the talent to do it. I mix the music based upon my vision. I don't send it out. I send it out to a mastering engineer. That's it. To confirm. But to put the final, but he doesn't really do that much because we are in alignment. I have the vision, but even when I'm recording, sometimes I'll record something that is, and I'm like, oh wow, I did something and where did it come from that I did that? That part in Dixie Mirage where it's like you got it all wrong, nothing good is gonna come from, you got it all wrong, nothing good is gonna happen for seamlessly. There's nothing left, what is going on? Strong and wrong, yeah. That part, when I heard that part, I was like, oh wow. When I heard that part, I was like, oh wow. Oh my God, I'm about to run out of energy with this. We're gonna continue this with in the second video because my phone's gonna go out. But this is the spectacle. We're gonna do a part 2. I go deeper into just how it goes through AI and this culture where we're not creating our culture. Our consumption of capitalism is shaping how we create culture, who we listen to. The reason why some of y'all are listening to artists who are very plain, Usher, who are very plain, Chris Brown, who are very plain, and people who marginalize their music. The reason y'all are, you have been trained to think all of the music needs to sound the same. All of the drums need to sound the same. The guitars, the vocals, they all have to be in Western pitches. That the world, go to China, go to Egypt, go to the Middle East. They do not go by those. We don't go by. It's in our culture. It's our heritage as African Americans, monotonal singing. Whitney Houston does it. When she sings, I Want to Dance with Her, oh, that's a monotonal note. That is not completely in pitch. I will always love you. That is not complete. Y'all harassed Mary J. Blige for singing for our heritage. Because Americans are not, because of the spectacle, Americans are not educated about what to listen to, when to listen to music, how to listen to music, not to be judged, not to expect the music to be simplified. Fergie's performance of the national anthem, I'm sorry y'all, was in key. And it was just very artistic. And a lot of y'all, when you heard the other one, that really was out of key, what do you call it? The 60s singer, oh my God, I can't remember her name right now. She's paid her dues, so we're not gonna bash her. But that was out of key. But Fergie's performance was not out of key. And I got into an argument with a singer friend. I'm like, there might have been one note when she went for the high note that was a little, but that was just her bending. It was her being microtonal, and we all can hear it when we listen to music. But we just have these judgmental people out here who are policing art and policing artists. So I'm gonna cut this right here, and make sure you listen to Pod 3, Part 2, Part 1, and Dixie Mirage. I'll see you with the next video. Also, subscribe and what is this? Like and that other thing. Hype it up. Peace.